How many people have been on a ghost tour before? Yeah. You guys have.
Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, you picked a good one.
Yeah.
How about New Orleans? That will scare you.
Done that one.
Oh boy, you would sleep for weeks after that one. Well, Santa Ana is an amazing city, and it has lots and lots of ghost stories, wonderful stories to tell. And this is a tour that you won't find on the AAA brochures. This is the behind-the-scenes tour. Little something about haunted Orange County. They have 4 tours, one in downtown Orange, one out in Black Star Canyon, don't miss it, in the dark in the woods. This one here in Santa Ana, and one brand new one in San Juan Capistrano. They're all good, but we all might play by the same rules. We don't make it up. Everything I tell you on this tour is real. I'm so sorry I don't have pictures to show you. If you come back another time, we'll have the iPod up and running. We had an open house here last weekend, and someone unplugged it to put the CD player in, and now it's absolutely dead in the water, and I'm so sorry. But I will tell you the wonderful stories about Santa Ana. How many people here believe that sometimes the world of the dead can get mixed up with the world of the living? Well, that's why we're here. That is indeed why we're here. So nobody was drug along by their spouse or their buddies or anything like that, because we usually get those. We have a little tiny group tonight. Usually we have 30 plus people on the tour. Yeah, we get pretty busy. But this is an off time of year for us. So, because you're a small group, if you like, I can maybe share a little bit of history of Santa Ana, maybe things that aren't exactly haunted, but really neat things all around the city. This city is just drenched in history. Santa Ana is 150 years old. You can't have anything that's 150 years old without having some energies left over from the people that were here and the different lives that these buildings have played. And so tonight I'm going to tell you about the haunted part of that. Few little rules and regulations. We are going on real city streets. We have some traffic noise. That's why we hold this tour on Friday instead of Saturday night. Saturday nights downtown gets alive with music and things, and then it's just a mess. So we're going on real city streets. Watch the curbs. This is an old city. Some of the curbs are quite large. Just watch where you're going. Nobody lag behind with a small group like this. It's really important we all stick together. If at any time on this tour you haven't heard something, just say, Tina, what was that? I didn't hear you. I'll be happy to tell you again. I want you to hear everything and enjoy this tour. So, who's ready?
Yeah, let's go.
I'm
Ready.
Ready.
I am just going to lock up the house, and then we're going to be on our merry way.
So tour the
I'm
house at different times.
Oh, you're going in this house tonight. Now, we're going to take a tour of the bottom floor only. Nobody upstairs tonight, because this is not the Historic Preservation Society event. This is a Haunted Orange County event. So we won't be going upstairs tonight, but you all come back, and I'll tell you when. Come on back and take a full tour of the house and enjoy it. And I guarantee you're going to fall in love with this house. I'll tell you the history when we get back. This will be our last stop. So if you would all meet me right outside the gate, we'll all go off together and I'll lock the house.
So this will be our last.
Bueno, buenas noches amigos. Otra edición de Angels and Demons Paranormals con su servidor Fernando Sánchez en la asociación de Blanco y Negro Noticias. No olviden de darle like a Blanco y Negro para estar al día a día de los acontecimientos. Estamos comenzando el tour de aquí de Santa Ana. Espero que les guste. Los vamos a traer diferentes puntos de la ciudad. vamos a comenzar.
As we get down to the driveway, please watch out for the parking spots there, or you fall over and break your toe.
El muchacho me pidió una foto que en su casa.
Pues, dile que te lo puede enviar. Dile que te lo envía.
Okay. Here we go, unafraid. How about one big ghost noise before them?
Sí, está bien. Que está cerca es para escuchar lo que dice. Ojalá te guste.
Sí.
We're going to stop right here. We didn't have to go far, did we?
No.
Here it is, folks. We are in the parking lot of the old courthouse. Built when Santa Ana became the county seat. Very, very wonderful. Can anybody tell me if they recognize this building from a very popular TV series? Nobody? We are looking at the insane asylum from American Horror Story.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Este programa
They
salió en
were back
American
here
Horror Story.
about 6 months ago, 6 or 7 months ago, filming again, so they're going to use it again. Creepy as can be. So, if you visit the courthouse, you're going to come here right where we're standing in parks, the old courthouse parking. So we have lots of pavements and parking meters and all that, but if you look down at your feet, you're going to see these pavers that look slightly out of place. There they are. They don't look like a parking lot at all. And if you look around the side here, you're going to see some little outcroppings, a footprint from years and years ago. This parking lot was left with this original floor plan. We are standing in the foundation of Santa Ana's second jail. This is it.
Esta es la
And
fundación de
presiding
la
over
segunda
this
cárcel
city
de la ciudad de
and
Santa
this
Ana.
jail was Sheriff Theo Lacey. The same Theo Lacey that our current jail is named after. It's right down the way in the Civic Center. This building was affectionately called Lacey's Hotel, and if you acted up a little bit, you could get free room and board here. If you look up on the side of the building, you're going to see some bricks that are slightly different color than the rest of the building. This was a wooden catwalk that went from the courthouse to the third story of Lacey's Hotel. And that's so they could take their little inmates, their little people, little bad people, from the jail to the courthouse to their trial without losing anybody. So, why is this on the tour? It's not haunted, unfortunately. It's just a cool piece of history. However, the building across the street sure as blazes is. Oh, nobody even saw it over there. There it is, folks. My laser pointer won't quite, well, yeah, it's almost dark enough for it. There it is, folks, as haunted as can be. The site of Santa Ana's first elementary school. Later
Primera
on
escuela
down the
elementaria
line, they
de
moved out to
Santa
more
Ana.
modern facilities, and who moved in was the YMCA. Now, this is the early 1900s. The YMCA played a huge part in the community. What does it stand for? It stands for the Young Men's Christian Association. And if you were a gentleman who was traveling, remember, no cars, feet, horseback, buggies. If you were traveling and needed to stay overnight, a young man could stay there for a day or a week or a month, whatever, and still have his reputation intact. He stayed at the YMCA, so he's still a good man. So, years and years later, they moved out, and the Orange County sheriffs took over the building. They used it as a training site for their rookies. They pretty well trashed it inside. However, this building was never haunted until the 1950s, when one man who was renting a little tiny room there was brutally hacked to death, his limbs and everything, by two people that were renting the room next to his.
En los años 50 hubo una persona que murió descuartizada en ese edificio.
So Ernie gets a hold of this information. Ernie is the director of Haunted Orange County. He gets a hold of that little tidbit, and he goes to the city, and I tease Ernie all the time that he's got some dirt on some city councilmen because he gets in places like this. Okay, so Ernie gathers up his 3 investigators, who are these 3 very, very gifted gentlemen. They go with him on all of his investigations. And I can tell you absolutely, these gentlemen are the real deal. When you talk to them, they're a little bit not of this world. You can tell that their feelings and their thoughts are just not quite what ours are. They do have that gift. They are the only 3 psychic investigators that are welcome in the Waffle House whenever they like, and they're here quite a bit. So sometimes they bring a student with them, and that's wonderful. As long as it's them, they can come here as many times as they like. We let them do that. So he gets his investigators, all of the equipment that goes with this type of thing, and the people from the city had to go in as well. And as is their usual way, the investigators always say, don't tell us anything. Don't tell us where we're in full mode. I've watched them do it many times. It's incredible. If you ask Ernie nicely, sometimes he takes people along. They went into their trance, they went into their mode, and they wandered through that entire building. And the usual way with them is after they've read their building, they all gather up together and they compare notes. What did you feel? What did you get? And these 3 gentlemen are very evenly matched, and they usually all feel just about the same thing. So, the 3 gentlemen found some very, very powerful energy, a feeling of panic and hurt and panic right here. Right here. One room was very small. The room next door was a little bit bigger. So one would be for a single occupant, the other one would be for more people. That goes right along with it. But when those gentlemen were in this building, they found something they didn't expect to find. They found the spirit of a little girl. She's downstairs in the basement where there's a huge tiled pool. And she's just there. She's got her little hands behind her back, and she's walking up and down the long side of the pool, and she's just looking down into where the water used to be. She's not panic-stricken. She's not in any kind of anguish. She's a peaceful little girl, and she's just there. Try as we could not find a record of any little girl who had drowned in the pool or died in the building. We honestly don't know who she is, but she's there. Now, the thought is that sometimes, especially with children, they don't have a wide range of travel. They haven't been in a lot of places. Their world is a little bit smaller. So there's usually some place that these children love, some place that they really have had happy times in. Sometimes when their little spirit fades away, it returns to a place that's made them happy. And we see this time and time again. So the only thing that we can think of is that little girl who passed away loved that pool, and she found a lot of joy there. Hopefully, St. Joseph's Hospital is buying the building, hopefully, and they're going to refurbish the entire building. And when they do, I hope that little girl finds some peace, and I hope that poor gentleman who's in such agony gets some peace as well. So, let's walk around the front of this courthouse. It's nicer looking on the other side. Let's see what we can find.
interesante. Al final venimos a sacar fotos.
Built in 1903 when Santa Ana became the county seat, and boy was that a coveted little spot. We won, we built this courthouse, and it is absolutely glorious inside. If you get a chance to go in here, you'll park around by the old jail, and you can come into the courthouse and just look around. How many people here got their wedding certificate here?
Huh?
Darn it, my record is broken. There's always someone that says, yeah, we got married here. And if you're around on Saturday, you can see one wedding after another. The courthouse is open 6 days a week. And they'll let you wander around and see all sorts of things in there. But when you do, you're going to see the American Horror Story. They use the interior quite a bit. And it's quite creepy inside. The woodworking is unbelievable. But as beautiful as this courthouse is, it does have its dark side as well. Way back in the early 1900s, there was a very famous, very prominent judge trying the trial, very, very famous, serious trial, when the 1933 earthquake hit, and quite a bit of this facade came down, including what used to be a bell tower up on the top. But all of this whole area was covered in these big stones, and the judge said everybody outside because the building could collapse. But he told everybody, pick up your chairs and go outside. And they continued the trial right out here on the grass. True story. Not soon after that, they came in one morning, opened the courthouse, and found a very famous judge that practiced here for quite a few years. He had hanged himself right above his chair in his courtroom. He left a note saying that he just couldn't take any more atrocities and hearing man's inhumanity to man, and he took his life right here in this building. Another man named Moz Gibson had an interesting little hobby. What was his hobby? His hobby was bashing people's heads in with a hammer. He started on the East Coast and he bashed a few heads. He came across the United States, went down to New Mexico, and he was bashing people's heads in all the way. He gets up to Fullerton, our Fullerton, and bashes somebody's head in. This time he got a little sloppy, and the Fullerton police arrested him. They brought him here, of course, because we are the jail, we are the courthouse. His trial lasted 3 hours. The judge said, "You're as guilty as can be." They took him in the back room and hanged him. Just like that. Out of public view, take him in the back, boys, string him up. And they took that man's life. So, Ernie gets a hold, why don't we have that today? That's it, out the back. Ernie gets a hold of this information, and he comes over here to the county who owns the courthouse. This is all county property. And he says, "Hey, County of Orange, can I come in here about midnight when things are quiet in the city with my investigators and my cameras and equipment and stay till about 5 a.m. and read this building?" And they said, "Absolutely not." So, what's the next best thing? county's not quite the city. The city is a little more lenient in these things. So what's the next best thing? You interview the night facilities people. The people that are here when nobody else is here. When the building is quiet and there's not a lot of fluorescent buzzing, fluorescent tubes and things. So Ernie comes over about midnight, knocks on the door and gets them. And he says, hey, night facility folks, is there anything unfamiliar, anything odd that you'd like to tell me about this building? And they said, oh yeah, right over here, the corner of this building. Downstairs in the basement, there's a set of offices and some little storage areas down there, way below the dirt. And they said there is something not right. When we go in there, especially by ourselves, we get an overwhelming feeling of something clutching us, something pressured and not right and very disturbing. We get in there, we clean that, we get the heck out of there, and we don't do it by ourselves. We take someone else with us. That's all Ernie needed. He goes over to the archives and he says, hey archives, give me the blueprints, which we have. He gets the blueprints and finds out that that corner of the building downstairs below the earth in the basement was 2 special holding cells. It's not for the people that are in Lacey's hotel. Those are for the everyday horse thieves and drunks. These 2 cells were for people that were violent. They're violent criminals. They were the criminally insane. He then digs a little farther and finds out that one inmate named Joseph Schmidt brutally strangled. In fact, he broke the man's neck. Another inmate that was being held in that same cell. So there's our third tragedy within this beautiful building. So, as beautiful as the building is, it does have its dark side as well. So, don't let that deter you. Definitely take a tour of the courthouse. It's free. You'll enjoy it. You'll be in there for hours, I promise. Meanwhile, we're going to wave goodnight to them all because we know they're in there. And we're going to go on and see what else we're going to find. Oh, if the walls could talk.
Yeah, from season 2.
Very, very careful over here. Man-eating steps.
I have a mind of a child.
I've never lost a tour goer yet. Oh, little man says walk. I'm going to have everyone go against the building, and that way we'll keep the sidewalk open and the city will be happy. Okay, and we always get a few homeless. Just ignore them. And skateboarders. This stop is our noisy stop, and we do get some traffic. So as I'm telling the story, I may raise my hand and stop speaking, and we'll wait for the traffic to go by. Here comes somebody.
Estamos en la ciudad de Santa Ana.
Okay.
Pues el
On
de
this
todos los
stop,
días.
what do you suppose looks haunted to you? Oh, if there was at the tree, the haunted lamppost. There it is, folks. I wish I owned that house. It the future, it is going to be home to the, and I'll mispronounce it, the Noodle House. I wonder if they know what it is. A noodle house. And we're all going, a noodle house? They're so superstitious. Do they know what they're getting into? I wonder if we've got that.
Was it a home?
It was. We are standing in front of the former home of Dr. Julius Crane. Now, Dr. Crane was a very prominent physician here in Santa Ana. And he had that house built, and there he was in his practice. What was his specialty? His specialty was maladies of the brain. Traffic, okay. Maladies of the brain. What made people depressed? What made them hear voices? What made them suicidal? What made them schizophrenic? And he was very good in his research. He was so good that they asked him to become the director of the San Jose Insane Asylum. And he went up there and he did that for many, many years. And he was very good at this. So when his time in San Jose was done, he came back here to his home and he started to see patients and continue his practice. One evening, hold on a moment.
Disculpen el ruido del tráfico. Contamina el ruido.
One evening, he was reclining on a small settee. They couldn't all do that at
No
once.
dejan hablar.
And they're spaced out so nicely, too. This is why we don't do the tours on Saturday night anymore. Okay. So after he resumed his practice here, he was reclining on a small settee when his wife called him to dinner. He tried to get up from the settee to go and have dinner, grabbed his chest and had a massive heart attack and died here in this house. So after Dr. Crane passed away, his wife decided, hold on. His wife decided that she would sell the house and go live with the kids. And when she sold this house, she sold it to the Smith and Tuttle Mortuary. How do you like that? Can you see that?
Mortuaria?
The Smith and Tuttle Mortuary.
No, mortuaria.
When I was a little kid, we would beg my mother to ride past it. We'd all shrink to the other side of the car and go, "Ew!" And then we'd say, "Go around again, Mom." And she would go around the block again and we'd go, "Ew!" Because it is just as haunted looking as can be, true story. So it was the Smith and Tuttle Mortuary for a million years until about 10, 11 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Smith Tuttle retired and the house became a series of banks. There was one bank and then they folded and somebody else took them over and all of this. So Ernie goes over to Citibank, who was the very last bank to be in residence here. And he said, "Hey Citibank, can we come in here with our investigators and our equipment, stay till about 5 in the morning and read this building?" And they said, "Absolutely not." No. So again, he interviews the people that worked in this building. And they said, no leading questions. He just said, "Anything strange happened in this building?" And they all went nuts. They said, "Oh, you betcha. Right up here on the 3rd story, or 2nd story. Right up in here." When Citibank was in this building, it was all records retention. It was all file cabinets, microfiche, remember those? And no customers, no one ever went up there. But it was all just records retention. But if those people working in that bank needed to get something from those record boxes or the filing cabinets, they didn't go by themselves, they didn't go in twos, they went in 3 or more. Because when they got up there was a panicked feeling. They were so nervous and upset when they got up there, they just wanted to scream. It was overwhelming. So, Ernie finds out all of these things. He finds out that when Smith Tuttle Mortuary was here, that 2nd story was the embalming room. Okay. The story of
Se
old
mueven los cuerpos del
Victorian
rey.
era mortuaries are the same. And I don't care which one you pick, they're all the same. There's a reason that the Victorians were terrified of being buried alive. Because people got buried alive. They'd fall over and people would think they were dead, and actually they had a cataleptic ailment that rendered them helpless, and they looked like they were dead. Not a lot of refrigeration. Let's embalm them quickly so things don't go astray. People were brought into old mortuaries and they were not dead yet. Even today, that little baby that fell in the frozen lake, remember this? They pronounced her dead and she was in the mortuary of the hospital, warmed up and came back to life. Okay, I can't imagine a worse horror of not being dead and you can't tell anyone. Someone that was terrified of that was Edgar Allan Poe, and he had a pact with his best friend of precise steps that friend should take to make sure he was dead. He was petrified of it. So, this poor building, here it sits, it's alive with energy, and I just wonder if the Noodle House is aware of that. And I have thought of what that building could be, and all I can think of is it could be another mortuary, because it really looks like it. Either that or maybe a daycare center. Let's go down the street, it'll be a little quieter this way, and we'll see what else this city has for us.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, we're on the tour with you. You just parked in the car.
Are
Sorry.
you the ones we were waiting
Yeah,
for? Oh my
sorry.
goodness. Well, you're welcome anyway.
Thank
Okay,
you.
love
Love
you.
your hat.
Thank you. Is he parking the car?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just so we can see the maybe if we go really slowly. Does he know where we are? Okay. Well, he probably knows where we're going then. Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue on then. This house was just purchased. It's going to be a
Vamos a revisar cuando se acabe el tour. Sacamos
They're going to serve food there?
They are going to serve food there and entertain people. I wonder if they know. How many guests would they have to have in that size building? Noodles!
You're on me?
I looked it up. It was for sale for $3.3 million. And I thought, yeah, I'll give you $300,000 cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right here. This guy's not right here because you're
They can't take it down there, right?
Oh, they cannot.
Yeah, you can.
La casa es lo último. Pues al menos tuvieron acción allá atrás con los pleitos.
Se agarraron la pala.
Sí.
He's parking like over there where the
¿Vale? El reloj.
like a park.
And just watch your step on the curb.
Or his cigar in the backyard.
Oh, yeah, I used to smoke cigars.
And I said that's
sidewalk open and the city will be very happy with us. And they'll let us come back next year. See, we don't have to go very far to find some very interesting things. This city is so full of ghost stories that Ernie is thinking of putting a second tour right here in Santa Ana, as we have some very interesting little spirits. The building that we're looking at is right behind us here. Drab little building, there it is. Not much to look at, except the front of this building is the original facade. Original brick and all this little pretty tile work and all that. And there it is, it's the Rohrs building. 1924 is when it was built. Okay, now the only reason I point that out is this gets us history buffs all upset. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful, it's the original facade. So why are we looking at it? It's because I'm a history buff and I have the laser pointer and I'm in charge. So there it is.
Sorry. I just seen that.
Now this drab little building doesn't look like much, but it holds a very interesting little spirit. Now keep in mind that everything in Santa Ana has a basement, including the streets. The streets have tunnels under this pavement. It does. And Ernie has been down there. Santa Ana Tour Part 2. Oh, I'll just tease you a little. Santa Ana Tour Part 2. So, this little building, built in 1924 by Mr. Rohrs, and inside are lots of small little offices and buildings. But there's a dentist office in there, and it's been a dentist office for 1,000,000 years. Okay. So about 7 years ago, I think it was, a little bit more than that, brand new dentist moves in. And he takes the renting the place there, and he brings 2 lady assistants with him. So he gets all set up, and he's starting to see patients, and everything is going smoothly. Until one day, his 2 dental assistants were sitting in the break room in between patients, when one of their purses flew off the shelf and landed in the center of the room. Now, when something like that happens, you don't yell, it's a ghost. You try and reason it away. What was it? So they talk it over with the dentist, and they told him what happened. And the dentist says, well, let's not make much of it. A couple of days later, the dentist is in that same break room when a full cup of coffee that was sitting up on a computer tower flew off of that computer tower and landed and broke right in the same location that the lady's purse had fallen into. So now the dentist is thinking, there's something strange here. And he goes around to the other businesses within this building and asks them, have you ever experienced anything odd? And they have not. So, you know those little dental drills that the dentist makes that horrible little sound? All those drills are very expensive. They're also very, very sterilized, so they're in individual little vials, and of course they're expensive, so they're in a big locked cabinet. One early morning, the dentist came in. He was the first one in the building, early morning patient, unlocked the building, went upstairs, unlocked his office to find every one of those dental drills were out of the locked cabinet, out of their individual storage vials, and embedded in a geometric pattern in the top of a little wooden sitting stool that the doctor uses when he services his patients. We wish he had kept that or drawn a picture of it or something. He did not. Of course, it all has to be gathered up and re-sterilized for the day's use. So, he goes to the owner of the building and he says, you, do something. You. What have you rented me here? And the owner is saying, I don't know what to do. So he finds Ernie's number as a paranormal investigator, and he calls him up and says, Mr. Alonso, you're going to think I'm crazy. And Ernie says, you're not crazy, you just have a building that has energies left in there. Let's bring the investigators in and we'll do the whole building. So while the investigators are all calling, well, what's Tuesday look like to you, and getting all this arranged, Ernie comes over and he talks to the night facilities man. Now downstairs in the basement of this building is a great big hall that they rent out for quinceaneras, anniversaries, all sorts of parties, wedding receptions, But the room downstairs is all mirror lined, and that's significant to the paranormal world. So Ernie says to the man, is there anything that you'd like to tell me about this building? Anything that's odd? And the gentleman says, oh yeah, it's my little friend who's with me. Little friend? What little friend? When the gentleman is here late at night, early morning, cleaning that room after a party has vacated, he's there by himself, tidying everything up. He has a habit of whistling as he works. And he told Ernie that every once in a while, a little something whistles back. So now Ernie has his hot spots. Upstairs in the dental office, downstairs in the mirror-lined basement. The investigators and the whole entourage arrive. Now, the equipment that goes with the paranormal investigation is massive. There's the temperature sensors. There's the audio sensors that are so sensitive. There's all sorts of frequency recorders. If a spirit is communicating on a different frequency, it will pick it up. And all of this goes with the investigators. They set it all up downstairs in the basement, and the investigators went into the gift that they have, and they wandered through this building. They all got together at the end of that investigation, and for the very first time ever, those gentlemen could not tell whether this was a man, a woman, or a child's spirit. They were completely confused as to what it was. They know that there's something here. They know the building is very alive, but they just couldn't identify what it was. So the investigators split up and they tried again with the very same results after their second time. And if you've ever watched an investigation, these investigators are exhausted after they go through something like this. So to have them do it twice was a huge effort. So they had nothing really conclusive to say. So they all went downstairs to collect all of their data. When they went downstairs, they found every one of their pieces of equipment had been turned off. They had nothing for all of their effort all night long. So Ernie went to the owner and he said, I have nothing for you. You have something, but we have nothing to tell you about it. We can't even tell you anything about the building. There's no unusual records or anything. So the owner of the building says, what'll I do from here? And Ernie said, why don't you call out the priest? Had the priest come, and the priest did come with his entourage, and they did a cleansing of the building. And it worked for about 10 months. After 10 months, the gentleman who's still with the building called Ernie and said that little friend has come back again. It's still whistling just a little bit. So this little building has a very unusual little spirit, and don't know how much trouble that spirit will be. Maybe there's more than one. The little whistling ghost in the basement, maybe he's okay. Maybe the mischievous ghost up at the dentist office, maybe he's at peace. Now, about 4.5, or maybe almost 5 years ago, I had a great big group of about 32 people. We got right about here, and one lady said, Tina, I have to go to the bathroom. The city is dark. What do we do? And we were not going in the Scientologist. But the gaming people next door were brand new. They'd only been open a couple of weeks. So I walked in dressed pretty much the way I am now, told them who we were, and could one of our people use their restroom, and they did. 4 college men started this business over here, and the one of them says to me, you're on a ghost walk, is this legitimate? And I said, yes, sir, this is very serious. And he says, what can you tell me about my building? Twice, he's seen the full-size apparition, a vaporous apparition of a woman. Once up on the mezzanine, the same lady down in the basement. That building will be on Santa Ana Tour number 2. Hopefully, we'll get an idea of these 2 buildings, because these 2 buildings were connected at one time. There was one business. So, more to come on that. Meanwhile, behind that drab little building is something very, very special. We're going to go down here because there's a lot more to see.
Excuse me, ma'am. Is that the office that used to belong to a relative of Mr. Alonso?
I'm so sorry, I missed that.
Was that a relative of Mr. Alonso that worked there, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Well, that's Ernie Alonso.
Yeah, his cousin, I think, was the dentist.
I think so, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
I think
I can't comment on it because I really don't know.
I think I found information about that. I was familiar with what you were mentioning.
Just watch your step on these. Oops. Oh, there you go. And just watch your step on the curbs.
Well, right, but like,
And again, we didn't have to go very far. I'm going to have everyone go over by this planter. So that way you leave the sidewalk clear. Lots of wonderful remodeling going on downtown Santa Ana. So we do get some foot traffic and some music playing and things like that, so just bear with us. Most cities have a main street. We have a main street too, it's way over there. But the heartbeat of Santa Ana is 4th Street. Everything happens on this street. And just like 150 years ago, this street was the heartbeat. It was everything happened on 4th Street. When I was a kid, Woolworths was over there. Behind us, with the spectacular clock tower on the top, is the Spurgeon building. It's actually the 4th Spurgeon building that sat on that spot, and it was built by William Spurgeon. He founded Santa Ana. I wish it was haunted. It's not. Isn't that a shame? It's absolutely glorious inside. It's all been done. They've really done it right. But I wish it was haunted. I'm so sorry it is not. But this poor little street has had its difficulties. When that 1933 earthquake hit, this whole place shook like crazy. A lot of the facades on the building came down. The second building in, next to where Woolworths used to be, the entire brick facade crashed to the sidewalk, killing 3 people that were just out for the day shopping. Just pummeled them with bricks. But if you look up and down this street, try and imagine what it may have been like way back when. Original facades on some of them and not on the other ones. But if you look over here, you're going to see a building that stands out when you stop to really look at it. And you can tell that it's something different. It has these beautiful columns and capitals up here on the top. It has some brave lions all around, and it has a tile roof, and it has a flagpole too. So you know darn well that this building was something very special. It's now the Valencia Jewelry Manufacturer, but we are standing right there by Santa Ana's first jail. That's where the jailhouse was. And upstairs were some police offices and all
Dice
that.
que este edificio era la primera cárcel original de la ciudad de Santa Ana.
And again, Sheriff Theo Lacey, he's in charge of everything, loved by everybody. But he was going through some ridicule and some lambing, because that poor little jail, ill-fitted as it was, had been broken out of several times, a couple of times by the same people. And once, the jail had been broken into and someone stole the pillows and blankets from the cells. So Theo was looking for some way to redeem his reputation, and he found it. He found it in a gentleman named Francisco Torres. Now, Francisco worked as a ranch hand in a very large orchard and ranch, which is now Lake Forest. That ranch was owned by Madame Helena Majeska. Do we all know her? No? Don't tell me that. Madame Helena Majeska was a very famous stage actress. She specialized in Shakespearean plays, and the world was at her feet. She couldn't have been more famous if she tried. She bought the entire Majeska Canyon. She owned it all. She and her husband, the Count, had this huge orchard in Lake Forest. So Francisco works for her, and he works especially for the supervisor of the ranch. One day, Francisco gets his paycheck, and he finds out he's short $2.50. That was a tremendous amount of money back then. It's a lot of money. And he goes to the supervisor and he says, what did I do wrong? What happened? Why am I short? And the supervisor said, there's nothing I can do for you. Everyone that has a job has to pay a poll tax. Even me, I had to pay it too. Oh God, Francisco was a little hothead. He goes and he gets drunk. He's so upset. He's angry. He's just furious. And he goes back again and he argues again with the supervisor. And again the supervisor says, there's nothing I can do with you, Francisco. Go away. That's not good enough. Francisco is so angry, and he was drunk. He goes into a shed, picks up a sharp pickaxe, comes back and killed the supervisor. Now he's sobered up, and he makes a plea, makes a run to the Mexican border. Just before he gets there, the San Diego Police Department picks him up. And they gave a phone call up here and said, Theo, we've got your man. Come on down and get him. But no matter what you do not bring him back to Santa Ana. He's never going to get a fair trial, and he deserves one. So what does Theo Lacey do? He's going to be the hero. He hooks up his own horse and carriage, and down to San Diego he goes. Where do you suppose he brought Francisco? At a slow walk down the center of 4th Street, right here. Slow walk, and everybody cheering him. Theo, our sheriff, you're a hero. You caught him. Good for you, Theo. We love you, Theo. So they put him to bed in the jail. Next day, they're going to take him over to the courthouse, the first day of his trial. His court-appointed attorney begged the judge for a change of venue. He said, Judge, you've got to change the venue of this trial. This man is never going to get a fair trial here, and he deserves one. And the judge said, denied. So they put him to bed again. The next day will be the beginning of his trial. In the wee hours of the morning, around 2 o'clock in the morning, an angry group of Santa Ana residents came to that jail calling out, we want Torres, open the door. And the jailer is pleading for peace. He's begging for peace and sanity. And the crowd is having none of it. They overpowered the jailer. They got Francisco out of that jail and dragged him screaming for his life to the very spot that we're standing on. They took a rope and they threw it over the telegraph pole that was here, and they hanged Francisco right on the spot that we're standing on. While Francisco was still writhing in the death agonies, they pinned a note to his body that said, change of venue. That was it. There's your change of venue. Out you go. No one was ever indicted on the murder of Francisco Torres, but it sent a very clear message. Don't do that in Santa Ana. And I'd like to thank everyone that looked up when I threw that rope. But it happened here in Santa Ana, and it was our one and only lynching, and it did happen here. And it did send that very clear message, don't do that in Santa Ana. Come on across the street. We're going to go poke and look in the jail, and then we're going to see what other stories we can find.
Catch us all.
Boy, they're taking up the sidewalk. Why don't you stand, everybody? Oh, you'll fall in the kids.
Esta era la primera cárcel de la ciudad de Santa Ana.
questions so far? No? The what? The West Coast Fox? Yes, it is. And there's a church in there now, but hopefully somebody's going to get enough money to refurbish it. It's amazing. And watch your step. We're going to have a trolley downtown, and I think that's what this is for. It's preparation for lines or something. We're very much looking forward to it.
Where do you get homeboy foot?
Are we all together? Of course I'm taking you down the front now. And you're having the artists put up these lights. Let's watch the step of the water. Okay, this is where I rob you. We're just going to keep that driveway clear. Now what we're going to look at is across the street. But the city has asked us not to go over there because we're usually a much bigger group and we just clog up every day. But across the building here, across these little palm trees, is kind of a domed building. What we're looking at is the Yost Theater. How many people saw the Ghost Adventure episode that featured the Waffle House and the Yost Theater?
Ghost Adventures? Yeah, with Zach Bagans?
Yes.
Yeah. I love it.
Don't believe a word they say. They called me about 3 months ago wanting to come back to the Waffle House, and I said, okay, you can come back here as long as we have absolute say on your script and you pay us $15,000. And they said, oh, that's okay, never mind. I thought, you stinkers. They came to us one time, took all of our historic information, blew it up into some fantastic thing just to get viewers. So I don't care how much money they have, they'll never come back to us again. And I'll clear up that story when we get back. What was that?
I was like, period.
Oh, I thought it was something, this tree dropped something every once in a while. So
Yeah, where's the tree? Yeah, thanks for
anyway, across the way is the Yost Theater. When it was first built, it was the Coombs Theater, then it became the Auditorium Theater, and then Mr. Yost bought it. And it wasn't movies, way too early for that. It was all live entertainment, it was vaudeville. So you paid your money at the door and sat down, and one act after another would come and go. There'd be an opera singer, then there'd be a juggler, there was even striptease back then. But that theater, the Yost Theater, right here in the heart of our city, was the place to be. All of old Hollywood came here to scout out new talent, just to see and be seen. They'd have breakfast, or they'd have lunch or dinner, over at Duniger's Tea Shop in the Santora building, and they would come here for the evening at the Yost. This was quite a posh area of town back then. So, the Yost Theater. Why is it on our ghost walk? Very, very good reason. The owner of, or the manager of the Yost Theater called Ghost Adventures a bunch of years ago and said, I think you ought to come over here and do a show. This place is so alive with energy, it isn't even funny. Okay, tell me about what's going on. The configuration of old theaters like this is such. The manager's office is upstairs in the rear of the building, up above where all the flies, all the scenery go up and everything. All the dressing rooms are up there as well. When the manager of this building would walk down to his office, the small rooms on both sides of that hallway that were dressing rooms would rattle. They would follow him, drop off behind him, and start up in front of him, and follow him till he got to his office. Downstairs, way below the ground, little dressing rooms are down there, absolutely alive with energy. Lots of sightings of apparitions down there, lots of them. So when the Ghost Adventurers came to the Yost, they called Ernie and said, Ernie, is there anything else we should see here in Santa Ana while we are out here? And he said, oh yeah, come on over to the Waffle House. So we got it cleared and everything, and they came to the Waffle House. And by the time they put us on television, they completely misrepresented our story. It's been years and years, but every once in a while it comes up and we are still so angry at them. Somebody will say, yeah, well, remember the Ghost Adventures, and we're still very mad about them. So they're not coming back to us. But the Yost Theater, it's alive with all sorts of things. The only person that we know of that's in that Yost was a very talented young man named Ernest Ball. Now, Ernest Ball had the world on a string. He was adorable. And if I had the iPad working, I could show you his picture. He was darling looking. He was very talented, a wonderful singing voice, and he wrote his own music. He wrote a couple of things that you may recognize. One's called I'm from Ohio. Very popular tune of the day. You're shaking your head yes. But he also wrote a piece of music that we all sing once a year on St. Patrick's Day. He wrote When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. Oh, yeah. So, he is invited to play at the Yost. If you got to play the Yost, your career just skyrocketed because you had played the Yost. He's there in his dressing room. He's going to go on. Manager knocks on his door, Mr. Ball, 15 minutes. And he sits back in that chair thinking the world had nothing more to give him. And he was right, because he had a massive stroke and died in his chair in the Yost Theater. How about that? See, I got good stories. Ernest Ball died in that dressing room chair in the Yost. If I was Ernest Ball, and I had everything going in my favor, and my young life was snuffed out like that, I would haunt the daylights out of any place where I died. I have a feeling Ernest Ball is in there, and I have a feeling he's really, really bad. I would be too. Don't be afraid of the Yost Theater today, though. It's alive with live music venue almost every night of the week. They have a flamenco guitarist in there on Wednesday nights that just blows the roof off of everything. He's marvelous. So don't be afraid of that. That's all a whole walking promenade. So you can park there and you can walk. It's very safe. We're going to go back down our haunted alley that was much more fun before the lights went up. Here's the Odd Fellows building, built in 1906 by Grandmother Spree. We haven't gotten in there yet, but we're going to.
1906. Es con razón que está pin, pin, pin. ¿Eh?
I smell pot and fabuloso.
Good combination.
And we just wait for everything. No questions at all? How many people are lost?
I wish like days were like they would not let any cars go through. Like that would be super nice. Did you ask her if you were gonna spend the night? I haven't called her yet. Scared to text her.
And here's our next stop. I'm going to have everybody go over here. We'll leave the sidewalk open for pedestrians. Now, as promised, we all know what these buildings are today. The names are there, and this is the Rhodes Jewelry and Loan, and I love that fluffed up term. It's the pawn shop. It is Santa Ana's pawn shop. We know what this building is today. But what was this building when this city was brand new? Ernie knew what the building was, and he comes over here to the pawn shop owner. Now, I understand that you don't know me, but I'm going to ask you to trust me on this, because this is a whopper of a story. Just trust me, the story is true. Ernie comes over to the pawn shop owner and he says, "Hey, crusty little pawn shop owners, this guy has seen it all. Do you know what your building used to be?" "No." And Ernie tells him, and the guy got up from his chair, looked him in the eye and said, "Well, that explains it." "Explains what?" "And this gentleman is downstairs in the basement where his office is. He's sitting at his big wooden desk which faces the brick wall. And he's doing the paperwork for his building, his business. He feels so strongly that someone's not just there with him in the room, but right next to his face. And you know, if you put your face next to your sweetie, you can feel a little of the electricity that we all have. This man feels that so strongly that he's swatting at the air and it's driving him nuts. And this is not a man that scares away easily. We are standing in front of Santa Ana's first undertaker, mortician, funeral director, post-mortem photographer, and furniture builder. All in the same building, all the same guy. Okay, back in the early 1900s when this city was getting started and new, this man had to do a lot of useful things for this city. Remember, people died a lot back then. Little children, this Fairhaven Cemetery is full of small graves. Children that died of influenza. Today, if the kid gets the flu, they get some extra flu aids, some aspirin. The next day, they go to school. Why? Maybe they go to the doctor and it doesn't get any worse. But back then, people dropped like flies. Women died in childbirth. Children died. People died of all sorts of things. So people got a little hardened to the fact that death is inevitable. It's all around us. It happens on a regular basis. The things that they did back then are not things that we would do today. So, if someone passed away and they didn't know that person because maybe they're traveling and they're a traveling salesman because that's the way it was done. If they found someone out on the road and he had died, they bring him here to the coroner, because the coroner has to see their dead. And back then, about all they had to do was look at them and say, "Yep, he looks dead to me, bring him inside, we're going to embalm him." Because they didn't have all the medical technology. They did the best they could. If you look dead, you were dead, let's go ahead and embalm you. Then, if they didn't know who that person was, how are they going to identify the next of kin? A mortician carpenters would clean the person up the best that they could, put them in a coffin without a lid on it, and they would prop them up in this window. Trust me.
Dicen que
Prop them
cuando
up
la
in
gente
this
muerta
window, and there
no sabían quién era,
like
la
this.
ponían en un ataúd
And
y la
hopefully
paraban
someone
en
would
esa
come along
ventana
and go,
y estaba parada ahí
"Okay, I know
muerta la
that guy.
persona
I
por
bought
mucho
something
tiempo
from him. He's a traveling
para ver si
salesman." and they
alguien
could identify
reconocía
him.
quién era.
So this man had to do that. Meanwhile, when business wasn't so hot at the dying part, he made furniture right here in this building in the basement. Right here on ground level was his showroom. People could come in and pick out a table and chairs and all the things that this growing city needed. That's okay, go ahead. That's all right, go ahead. You look alive to me. This is a ghost box, and you're certified lively. People could come in and pick out their furniture. Downstairs in the basement, his workers are making the furniture for this growing city. They also made coffins. They filled up the coffins. They did all those things. This city, this man was very popular, and he had to do those things. It was a useful service. Has anyone here heard of post-mortem photography? I'm going to warn you ahead of time. Very seriously, I'll warn you. Don't take your cell phones out, look up postmortem photography. There's always somebody in the group that goes, "Oh my God, oh my God." And I know that they look. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, the pictures are disturbing. Don't look them up. Just put that out of your mind. If you want to look at those things later, just don't do it before you go to bed. Postmortem photography. Back then, when this was popular and acceptable, photography was very new and very expensive. So you couldn't have a photographer out for your child's christening or for a birthday party, a wedding. Not many people did that. So when did people go ahead and spring for the photographer? When they couldn't afford not to, when someone had died. Sometimes that's the only picture a mother would have of their newborn baby that had just died. This happened all the time. This post-mortem photographer, mortician, undertaker, coroner, furniture manufacturer would pose these dead people in lifelike settings with their whole family surrounded by them, and they would take pictures. The family picture and somebody, maybe a couple people in that picture are dead. They would have the child holding the hand of their sister or brother. Take the picture. Ernie has the original advertisement of the company that made the racks that they put through the backs of the coats of gentlemen to hold up the corpses. It's disturbing, and all it is little drawings with little dots about insert rod over here and all this. But it held people upright so they could get that picture. What else did this man have to do? He had to be an artist. What's the first thing that goes when you die? It's your eyes. They deteriorate first because they're mostly water. He had to close eyelids and paint on eyeballs on the closed eyelids. I'm not making it up. You see pictures of little kids and they've got these big starey eyes. They're not real. This man had to do it all. It was an acceptable practice, and it all happened right here in Santa Ana, Julian. Heck of a story, isn't it? And
Yep.
it's true. Come on, folks, we're going to see what else we can find. Did I upset anyone? Oh, good.
And the best.
Cuando mucho a la gente le pintaban los ojos, porque como los ojos se descomponían inmediatamente, cerraban los párpados y se les pintaba para las fotos. Tienes tu cámara.
See, we don't have to go very far. We've got them on every corner. The building that we are stopping at now is a great big huge building. It is currently the Church of Scientologists. No jokes, I'm sure these folks are sincere in their beliefs, so we won't make jokes.
Right.
Scientologist building. Scientology building. But before it was the Scientology building, it was Santa Ana's Masonic Hall. Does anyone have a Mason in their family? A grandfather, a great uncle, something like that? Okay, the Masonic Hall. The Masons are a group of people, and to narrow it down to the very simplest of terms, their only purpose for existing is to do good things for other people for no money. Okay, that's what they do. And they do it from their heart. If you happen to know someone who is a Mason, you know what that means to a man. It's a very, very honorable spot. It's a very coveted spot. You can't just step up and give them money. You have to be asked to join. You have to be the highest quality person. You have to be all for your fellow man. After you're a Mason, you can become a Shriner, you can become the Knights Templar, you can become a Scottish Rite, and they all support different philanthropic things. That's all they do. They raise money to give away to other people, and they've been doing it since King Solomon's times, and I hope that they continue to do that. But the Masonic Hall in any city was a big, big deal. And believe you me, this building inside is opulent. The lighting fixtures, the woodworking, it is a tremendous building. When my dad was alive, my dad was a Mason, he used to come over here every once in a while to be their guest organist, because my dad was the organist in his Masonic temple. And so he'd come over here every once in a while, and I can tell you, this building is incredible in size. Masons dwindled a little bit in their members, so they moved to a more modern building, a little smaller facility. And when they did, they sold the building to the Scientologists. Scientology folks have been very responsible in their restoration of this building. They've done a very good job. We know because the Historic Society used to take turns going through their dumpsters at night. Yes, I've been upended in there a couple of times. So, the story of a Masonic lodge is the same all over the country. I don't care which one you choose. I can tell you stories about the one in Fullerton that it just, you'd never go in there. If a Mason dies, just like the little girl at the YMCA pool, Sometimes their spirit goes back to their Masonic home, and they reside in that building forever. Now, before the building was a Scientologist. One of our other tour guides, Charles, is a Mason. He came over and very nicely asked them, and he was allowed to have the investigators into this building, and they read this building while it was still a Masonic lodge. Stories are the same. When the doors to the ritual room are closed and no one's in there, those investigators could still hear the voices of Masons reciting their pledges to do good and be good people. Just like a record player skipping in time, these same voices repeating their pledges again and again, because men often go back to their Masonic hall. Up in Fullerton, there's full apparitions of people all over that building, some of them witnessed by my mom and dad's friends, and they're not nuts. They're level-headed people. But this Masonic hall is still the Masonic hall to the residents that are still here. We're going to go around the front of this building. We will not go inside, please don't. But we're going to stop right in the front of the door, and we're just going to look at the building, because it is really terrific. And we just do it to tease them too. Come on. Everybody stick together.
¿La lista no? Masónica.
Atención.
Símbolo ese de triángulo. Mira. Chiquito, sí.
Grabamos vivo. Nomás la casa.
The chandelier is original to the building, and so are the ceiling medallions up there. And if that one's ever missing, I hope they don't look in my spare bedroom. I have a spot for that.
He looks a little creepy.
Courthouse. I love it at night like that when it's all lit up.
No hago mil
¿Quieres?
Pretty impressive. Have you been inside? Oh, it's horrendous. The staircases up. Lunch downtown in the Julian Courthouse. And just watch the curb if you would. Now here's a building that's cool and creepy at the same time. It's not haunted, it's the Presbyterians. They're very nice people.
They're very nice.
But it's worth a look.
You can't, it's dip down.
go in the front door. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Ernie Alonso, the director of Haunted Orange County. And sometimes he's here for the end of the tour, which is wonderful. And so here he is in the flesh. He's got a very busy weekend, so we're very lucky that he's here tonight. Nobody here has ever been to this house? I know you have. You've been on my tour before. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dr. Waffle House. This magnificent home was built in 1889 by Orange County's first lady doctor. She specialized in delivering babies, and in her career, she delivered over 1,000 babies, either in this house or around in this city. Very benevolent lady. She was married twice, and when we go inside, I'll tell you more about her. She was married twice, which is why this is called the Dr. Howe-Waffle House. When you're inside, we're going to take a tour of the bottom floor only in this house. It is the bottom floor. And I'll tell you about the paranormal activity in this house. I think you're going to enjoy this house a lot. But try to put yourself back for the next 15-20 minutes. It's no longer 2019. The year is 1889. Yes, this house is 130 years old this year. Come on inside. And we're going to be going into this apartment.
Sácale foto, sácale foto. Wow. Yeah. Bueno, entramos y miren cómo está. Oh my God. Pásale. That was full outside right away. That was 5 kids outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Turn on the TV. That was full. Nice meeting you. Pleasure.
This magnificent Edan-style home, built in 1889 by Dr. Howe-Waffle. She and her first husband, Dr. Alvin Howe, came here from the East. She didn't have her medical degree yet. She went to work as an elementary school teacher in Westminster until she got enough money to go to Chicago to Hahnemann College. She got her medical degree. She specialized in delivering babies. She came back here to Orange County, and the two Dr. Howes had this home built. The house originally sat across Main Street in the Burger King parking lot and was due for demolition back in 1975. One dear angel went before the city council and she demanded this house. So the city finally got tired of hearing her scream. They moved the house here. That was Adeline Walker. Her picture is on the piano. And yes, I am going to turn the lights on. She saved this house from destruction. She formed the Santa Ana Historical Preservation Society. Now I'm going to tell you just a little bit about this society so you can get an idea of what this house is about. The Preservation Society takes care of this house. We restored it to what we have today. We are a non-profit, all-volunteer society. Every penny you spend goes back into this house. We are a group of people, like I say, we're all volunteers. We're educated, we're mostly level-headed. We're clear-thinking, good-hearted people. We are not nuts. But almost every one of us have had paranormal experiences in this house. And I'm very proud to be their vice president, by the way. Paranormal experiences. Oh boy, yes. The two Dr. Howes were in this house for a year and a half when Dr. Alvin Howe was brought up on charges of suspicion of performing an abortion. Now back then, that was the worst thing that you could possibly do. And he was tried right across the street in the courthouse. He was found not guilty. This is where the ghost adventurers all blew it up and they made us into an illegal abortion clinic. Yes, isn't that horrible? We sat there in horror watching this on TV, not knowing we had no say. So, Dr. Howe was found not guilty, he was acquitted of all charges, but that was enough to ruin his reputation. So rather than pull his wife's reputation down, he moved to San Francisco and resumed his practice. He was a very good physician. Well, we all know about those long-distance relationships, and Dr. Willella Howe divorced him. Also not done back in the early 1900s. Women didn't become doctors back then. She defied everybody. She knew she had a gift. So she divorced Dr. Howe. She married Edson Waffle. Edson Waffle owned the delivery stable. He boarded horses, he rented carriages, he rented horses. Everybody loved him. She married him. He brought his 3 children to live here, along with her 2 daughters, and they lived here until her death in 1923. She did not pass away in the house. She passed the side of a patient. Fast forward to today, the house was scheduled for demolition. Adeline Walker saved it. She formed our society. We worked ourselves to the bone. We restored this house, and now we have it open for everybody to see, which we love. And when I turn the lights on, you love it too. Paranormal experiences. Oh yeah. Lots of noise from the attic. The attic is huge. It's almost the size of this house. It's very, very big, very tall. It's very clean up there. Nothing ever gets dusty. Lots of sounds from the attic, lots of them. I was here one afternoon and our housekeeper was here. And she said to me, Tina, is there something funny about this house? And she's looking at my face like she's waiting to catch me in a lie. And I said, well, what do you mean, Maria? And she said, I've been cleaning here today and I sat down to rest and I heard somebody upstairs. And I really don't feel like losing our housekeeper. So I said, oh Maria, this house is so old, you know, it makes a lot of noises and it just sounds like it, it's creaky. And she's staring at my face, waiting for me to crack up and go, but she bought the information and we still have her as our housekeeper. Lots and lots of noises. Upstairs where the bedrooms are, there's a long hallway. There's 4 bedrooms up there. Little sounds of running feet, something that a child would make. Not a child running in fear, but those little short choppy steps when a kid is all tickled pink and he's laughing and he choppy runs along, followed by something that sounds like a bouncing ball. Every once in a blue moon, maybe once a year, we hear some kind of a metal grating crash to the floor. We all run up there, somebody goes up there, there is no metal grating that made that noise. Psychic investigators that belong to Ernie, they are his team. They are the only people that are welcome in this house anytime they feel like it. They are the real thing. They tell us that there are 2 gentlemen that reside in the parlor directly behind us. One of Ernie's investigators got the most fantastic picture. He went upstairs first time in the house and took a picture down the darkened hallway. When the picture was developed, there's a full apparition of a woman coming out of the doctor's bedroom. She's stepping out, has her hands kind of out like this, and she's looking down the hall at the camera. And you can almost see her facial expressions. It's unnerving, unbelievable. We only know of one person who did die in our carriage barn. Now the carriage barn is now separate from the house. It was in a different location when it was originally across the street. But this came to us from a family member. You know, all families have their stories. That family member told us the story of a young girl who came to Willella, obviously going to have a baby, and she said, I'm alone in the world, I'm not married, I have no family, and I'm going to have this baby, can you help me? And Willella said, you bet I can. She took in everybody. She housed that young girl in the carriage barn upstairs at the big nice apartment there, it's very nice. Housed that young girl up there, and that young girl gave birth to triplets.
No.
Triplets.
Oh my goodness.
How small they must have been. This is a poor girl, no fresh vegetables and milk and all of this, no nutrition. but all 3 of those babies lived. Luella and her housekeeper found wet nurses. They were determined to save these little babies, and one lucky family adopted them all together. Good story, but not so good for the young girl. She did pass away, and she passed away in our carriage barn. Now, one of our members had something happen to her in that carriage barn that so overwhelmed her with anxiety and sadness and fear, and just overwhelmed her that she will not talk about what happened to her. She doesn't want to open that portal up again. And she will not, to this day, go into that carriage barn. I've never felt anything in the carriage barn, but personal experience, you bet. One night, and it wasn't a year ago, I don't think, I had a big group and everybody was leaving. It's the end of the evening, and I was just going around making sure all the doors and everything were okay. And stepped outside, it was the only one here, stepped outside and started to set the alarm, but it wouldn't set. It said something was amiss. So I've got the hat and the hat box and everything, and I come charging back in, and I'm checking the cameras and the motion detectors and the locks on the doors, everything looked fine. It still wouldn't set. 3 times it still wouldn't set, so now I came charging back in this house, and I was really mad because I must have missed something the first 3 times. And when I stepped into this second parlor, like a ton of bolts, it hit me. I was not alone, absolutely. And if you've ever had an experience like that, there's no mistaking it. Nobody has to tell you what's happening. I got into that room and I was going pretty fast, and all of a sudden I stopped like I'd been hit in the eye. And the whole entire room felt pressurized. I felt an absolute pressure chamber all around me. So I stood there, got the hot box and the whole thing, and I stood there, wasn't sure what to do. I wasn't afraid, but it really took me off guard. So I just looked around the room, and out loud I said, whoever you are, we're here because we love this house as much as you do. We want you to stay. If you want to stay in the house, stay in the house. But you need to know that we're your friend too, and we love this house as much as you do, or you did when you were alive. I just kept repeating that. And all of a sudden, right in front of me, it was about this wide, I felt a force. There was no mistaking it. Something was there in front of me, and it very slowly moved all the way around me, and I just stood still until it got in front of me again, and it just was still there. It was just about that wide, just like you could feel a person. And so I came into this parlor hoping that it would leave, and it didn't. Went around to the dining room, and it was still with me, and back into that parlor, and it was still there. All the time I was telling the spirit, if you want to stay here, but know we love this house too. The minute I stepped out of that doorway, it turned off just like somebody had flipped the switch off. And I thought, well, I'll be damned. I'm here in the dark house all by myself, I'll be damned. Mm-hmm. And I went outside, called Jad Tech, they helped me set the alarm, and I went home. Never happened to me again, and I've been in and out of this house in the dark 1,000 times. I'm not afraid of this house in any way, shape, or form. So those are the experiences in this house. When I turn the lights on, I'm going to invite you to walk around this house. Ernie is going to scare you any minute now, and he's going to open that door behind you. He does it every time. So I'm going to turn this light on, and when I do, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes because the chandelier is very, very bright. Okay? So ready? I'm going to turn this on. Everybody close their eyes. It gets very bright very quickly. Let's wander through the house, enjoy the house. You can sit on anything you see. If you play the piano well, you can play our piano. Any questions at all, please ask me.
Yes.
Did you like the tour?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent.
Es una oficina aquí. encontramos en la comedor.
So how was that tour?
We've got a lot of things like that.
Cocina.
Upstairs, we can save quite a bit of more upstairs.
Es donde se subían los servientes a la parte de arriba. A ver, ahorita que hablamos con esta señora, hay que hablar con ella.
Yeah, this is shit.
1863, I think that this is.
And we're in the corner, we were sitting.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hotel. It looked like it was a hotel set.
Oh, the doctor's out. Let you know.
Talk to them.
Oh yeah, then the patients would probably just stay here. And then wait for the doctor over there.
Cuidado, mi amor. Sí. Mi esposo.
I can turn the light on in there. If you let me in.
Right here.
If you let me in there, I'll turn on the light. It's a little hidden back there. It's a little hard to get to.
Anybody who watches Game of Thrones knows exactly what I'm thinking about. Right there, that one, right there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Something still uses
Damos gracias al señor Alonso que nos permitió hacer este tour. Él es el encargado de estos tours que vamos a estar haciendo periódicamente. Muchas gracias, señor Alonso, por su confianza, por dejarnos permitir entrar a esta casa con tanta historia en la ciudad de Santa Ana. Y vamos a estar visitando, con el favor de Dios, otras partes del condado de la Naranja para que vean un pedacito de la historia y puedan venir a visitarnos, amigos de las diferentes ciudades de allá de Baja California, de Tijuana, Ensenada, Tecate, Rosarito, Mexicali. Vengan a hacer este tour que se llama Haunted OC y que lo vamos a estar poniendo la página para que puedan ustedes venir a reservar un tour y a disfrutar maravilloso casa. Me faltó acá. Me falta el cuarto del fondo, Hasta que se salga, está chiquito. Comienza el señor. Comienza el señor. Abriendo el closet. Ahí te vas a ver a closets. Ahí, ¿sí ves? Entramos ahí.
No.
Puedes ver si está interesante, ¿no? ¿Qué es esta modelo? ¿O es que ahorita el señor lo prendió? El señor lo...
¿O es una luz?
Es una luz, ajá.
Se siente
¿verdad? Se siente también. Y huele como viejo.
Bastante.
Sí. Aquí sí sentí lo leo. I felt something here.
In here?
Have you ever felt something there?
Yeah, this used to be. This used to go into. This used to connect into the patio to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Before.
They close it off?
Yeah, they closed it off.
Back where I felt right away something there. I entered, that little corner right here around at the main entrance. But this one, it felt much more strong. Forgot my other tripod to keep it stable. Irma, sácale foto termal aquí, por favor. Ahí con el iPad, sácale una foto termal.
Oh, termal.
Ajá, termal. Sácale foto así y luego uno termal, mi amor, por favor. Poquito para acá. Yes. Eso.
Did you sense anything on the other locations?
I haven't. The one kind of far from like the one up here, but I'm going back right now across the street.
Oh.
And the one over here by the motor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going right there around.
This is beautiful too. Imagine if you truly felt how hot this would be. This would be an original tile. See, things will be on those houses.
Yep. And they say Dr. Allen's not the design of it. She was the design of it. So there was a family that was part of it.
Arriba que hay.
Oh, es una recámara además de nosotros.
No más una recámara.
No, it's 3 bedrooms.
Allá no se puede subir.
Yo pensé que después que se vaya la
Ah, ok. Gracias.
Ese. Perdón amigos que estoy un poquito terco aquí en esta página, en esta esquina, pero sí sentí algo que se siente bastante así como algo aquí atrapado.
I can send it. Okay. You want me to send it? Do you have a phone number? Yeah, 619. 619-395. Are you guys doing anything else weird investigations or anything?
See something?
Yeah, go ahead.
You see something?
I felt something here. I did feel something awkward, like trapped.
Are you psychic?
No, no sé qué.
It's not too odd.
You know where you should go? You know the kitchen area on top of the server room? I went
Oh,
there
the
last
kitchen. Oh, up.
top.
And the
Yeah,
little
it
stairs.
says. Unfortunately, it says not enter, but
I
yeah,
did
it will
it
be
anyway.
good.
It was
Yeah?
creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, for
I went there
for
one
the
time and that's when she remembers me.
For the servants?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll probably peek around the corner of the camera. Thank you, sir. But yeah, this one I did feel something here.
And my cousin went up to he's one of the school. They were there before. And he went up top to the rooms.
Yeah, it's not good to do that because then if there's something like a leech, and then it
Oh
goes
yeah,
with
I
it.
have a little girl in the house.
Oh, you
yeah,
do?
but yeah, it's cool.
It's positive.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
She just comes every now and then. My aunt sees her. I saw her. I have not seen her, but everyone else has.
Sometimes there is entities that can be like a leech, and they hop on you and they're feeding from you, and they won't let
Are
you
you a
go.
witch? Yeah, he's a witch.
She is sensible, right?
Esa es no mexicana, es colombiana. Muslim.
Oh, musulmán. Oh, okay.
Ella también hace eso, crean eso.
Es sensible, lo logro sentir. Sensible.
Hace todo eso también. Yo casi no me importa eso.
Sí.
Tengo amigos que hacen eso. Me gusta, pero no es como yo.
Oh.
Sara.
Sí, okay. Oh, okay, perfect. Ahí ese cuarto, sí. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. Quiero entrar allá, no puedo entrar. Es que están todos. ¿Cuál sigue, amiga?
Siéntate ahí, vas a hacer tus escalofríos.
Dice que en esta.
Sí.
Esta sigue, se siente interesante, como que ¿Escalofríos?
Sí, te paras aquí
Ajá.
y sientes que te sientan. Siéntate para que tú pruebes. Ya hicimos las 3.
¿Sientes que te sienta?
Como que te quieren que te sientes. Que te da escalofríos. No, pues cuando no te da miedo nada. No sientes nada. Siento muchos escalofríos aquí. Ahorita que se lleva la demás gente nos van a dejar subir arriba. Pero no siente nada. Que no tiene miedo. No tiene miedo. Yo sí.
Ahí sí.
Es que no tengo cabellos.
A ver, pero la piel. Siento.
Mira mi piel. Un escalofrío.
Curioso.
Curioso, y también a ellas, las muchachas.
No, eso sí, ruédame.
Hasta ir allá.
What's that extra part on the Black Star Canyon and what's the
Black Star Canyon, boy, is it good.
Ándale. Oh, aquí también. Aquí también.
Does Joel still play the violin out there? Or the harmonica? Or is the harmonica? He gets you all the way down
Esta es
Black Star Canyon in the dark.
la oficina del señor Waffle.
It's the best.
Wilela Howe.
Nunca había oído esto.
Interesante que
Is it a restaurant or bar? It's called Eat Chow. Their food is really
ahorita le sacas foto.
Yeah, I believe it's that same building, but it's upstairs.
¿Mm?
no.
No la había visto la silla. Está rota.
And we were in the room, and the door to the studio just slammed shut. And so it's not and those guys get I feel like they played some energy there. Like it's really, really strange. It's a very weird.
You know, I'll ask around because there's people in this society that know.
Va a ser el avión, ¿no? Aquí está.
Somebody, if I don't know, someone else will. There, I mean, they can point it in the road. If you look up the address first of all and see what it is, you can sometimes look back and see what it was. And then the city archives, call them, because one of our members is in charge over there.
Wow, está diferente. Aquí lo veo la temperatura más caliente. Sentí algo que me tocó aquí. La mano.
¿Sí?
Aquí. Sentí que something touched my hand right there, in the middle. Me sentí como que me hicieron así más, no sé. No sé.
No, más que no más, there's one anybody else to come up here.
Saca foto, mi amor. No sé. Enfermera de la Cruz Roja. La bolsa. Ese. Miss Julia room. Cuarto de Julia. Este era el cuarto de la niña que se sentía. ¿Se siente aquí? ¿Se siente una niña?
Esta era la cama del housekeeper.
The housekeeper? But there is a little girl that has found her presence in the house?
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Oh, the house.
I'm gonna have you guys go down this one.
Okay. Señor, es una puerta. Látigo.
Oh, let's go.